Okay, welcome to another Off the Cuff. I just saw this and it kind of made me think about Kyle Rittenhouse and his future, and how, I don't know if it's always been like this or not, but how at least at the moment we don't let people live their life, even if they've been found not guilty in a court. So yeah, here we go. So student groups want mass shooter Kyle Rittenhouse kicked out of Arizona State University. This is by The Independent, an organization who I might remind you was telling people that Kyle Rittenhouse had killed 3 black people up until about 5 days ago. So we'll bear that in mind. Okay, and apologies for these adverts. I just can't afford to subscribe to all of the newspapers that I do, that I pick from. I probably should, but it wouldn't be this one. Okay, so a coalition of liberal student groups at Arizona State University. Liberal, are they really? Or are they just leftist? Are calling on the school to kick Kyle Rittenhouse out of the university's online classes. Mr. Rittenhouse was acquitted of homicide charges earlier this month after being charged with killing 2 men and injuring a third with a semi-automatic rifle. So 90% of rifles during 2020 racial justice protests in Kenosha. Not sure why that matters. The groups opposing his enrollment, including Students for Socialism ASU, Students for Justice in Palestine, Multicultural Solidarity Coalition, and Mecca de ASU, okay, so basically all of the people you'd expect it to be, criticized the university for allowing a mass shooter to take online courses. Our campus is already unsafe as is, and we would like to abate this danger as much as possible, a spokesperson for Students for Socialism told Fox News in a statement. The goal of these demands is to let the ASU administration know that we do not feel safe knowing that a mass shooter who has expressed violent intentions about protecting property over people is so carelessly allowed to be admitted to the school at all. The groups plan to hold what they are calling a killer off our campus rally on Wednesday. During his homicide trial, Mr. Rittenhouse described himself as a college student studying nursing at Arizona State University. He didn't say exactly that, but yeah, he said he was ASU because he was. An investigation from 12 News concluded that Mr. Rittenhouse, who dropped out of high school, was taking online classes in a non-degree track from ASU. He also stated that he had enrolled for this year and that he was contemplating attending in person this year, as long as there weren't too many lunatics that would try and destroy his career, time, whatever you want to say, at university by being mentals. Kyle Rittenhouse has not gone through the ASU admissions process. He is not currently enrolled in any classes at ASU. That's because he hasn't started yet, it said in a statement to The Guardian. It's not the first time Mr. Rittenhouse has generated controversy at ASU. A student group called College Republicans United received backlash when it sought to raise funds for Mr. Rittenhouse's legal defense, writing online that the then 17-year-old does not deserve to have his entire life destroyed because of the actions of violent anarchists during a lawless riot. I agree. Since being acquitted, the 18-year-old has been celebrated as a hero in right-wing circles, I would just say non-far leftist circles, offering Fox News' Tucker Carlson a lengthy interview shortly after the verdict and visiting former President Donald Trump, who praised Mr. Rittenhouse as a really nice young man, because he is a really nice young man. Okay. During the trial and the racial injustice protests where the shootings themselves happened, Mr. Rittenhouse said his presence there was in part to be a protest medic. Though he brought a medical kit, Mr. Rittenhouse did not have medical training. He had first aid training, so that's patently false. Just because he wasn't a registered EMT does not mean he had zero training. He was a police cadet, a fire cadet, a scout and all the rest of it. So he knew more than your average person. That's why they asked him to be, I think there was like 102 people there that night with AR-15s protecting property, and they asked him to be one of the medics because of the fact that he knew more than most people. He was captured on video talking about shooting shoplifters with his effing AR. Again, this is... I've gone through this before. How many people, after watching their city looted and burned and destroyed, have made a comment in anger like that? I think if people are being honest with themselves, they would admit that a lot of people, possibly even yourself, would admit to saying something along those lines just out of frustration and anger, and they're not being literal. I just find it ridiculous that grown-ups are still having these still printing this ridiculous stuff. Just days before actually shooting Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz, the Illinois teenager reportedly idolized guns and law enforcement. And so basically it goes down and down and down and down, talking about everything they can to try and smear him, that if he hadn't done what he'd done, nobody would be batting an eyelid, unless of course they actually knew about him, in which case these people will do as much as they can to ruin people's lives. So yeah, and I believe that part of the reason for this is, besides having organisations like The Independent giving people completely false information to stir the pot, knowing that most of those people don't want to find out the truth, as long as it suits their narrative, they're happy to read a false information. As well as certain media organisations like this, we also have other organisations or media groups, like in the UK they're called Loose Women, and then I think in the US they're called The Verge or The View. So let's see what they had to say.
Being found not guilty, you were saying.
I was just saying, this has been framed as all rioting, and that's just not the case. So you've got a shooting of Jacob Blake on Sunday, Monday protesting, but then yes, there was a very small group of folks that burned down some buildings, ransacked some stores. On Tuesday, that's what Kyle Rittenhouse was going to do. He was going to protect property. Apparently, It was a used car lot.
Right.
He had no affiliation with that car lot, no ownership.
Okay, that's just ridiculous already. We all know, anybody that watched the case, and this came out after he'd been found not guilty, everybody knows that the owners of those 4 buildings, the 4 business complex, had asked him to go and help them.
Interest, but that's what he was responding to.
Okay.
On that Tuesday, there were police members that were, firing shots of bullets, rubber bullets, fake bullets, and also tear gas repeatedly at protesters, trying to disperse the crowd because they have imposed a curfew. And that is what Kyle Rittenhouse started. So the notion that this was a riot, that there were days and days of riots, it's just not really an accurate
I don't think
framing
that's what
in my
anyone's
view.
saying. I think
Is
there
it
were
not accurate?
protests, and
Well, there were a
that's
lot
the
of people saying that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe. I'm just saying I recognize that there was a lot of good protesting. The part that you see in these videos, you even hear before Rittenhouse fires anything, you hear guns going off. Like there was a lot, and it's all on video.
Yeah. Well, let me show you what got me. The thing that no one really was talking about. The father of Anthony Huber, one of the young men shot and killed by Rittenhouse, put things into perspective, for me at least, and on CNN. Take a look.
Criminal.
That guy gets to run free, and he's now a hero. And this is my son right here. This is Anthony. We lost our son, and there's no justice right now for our family, and there's no closure.
Your son tried to kill someone, dude. I'm sorry.
And there wasn't going to be justice in
for
that
you,
Kenosha court with that judge.
And now he wasn't doing anything.
Right.
He was trying to, he saw an active shooter.
Was he not doing anything,
He saw
Whoopi?
someone get shot. He thought he was doing the right thing.
That's right.
So
Okay,
even
it doesn't matter if you think you're doing the right thing, Whoopi. Like, if I think that somebody is a thief or has done something worse than that, so I go over and demolish them, it doesn't matter what you think or what he thought had happened.
even all the excuses in the world does not change the fact that 3 people got shot.
Yeah.
2 people were murdered.
Yeah.
2 of those people grabbed his gun. We have evidence of that. We had to sit through days of it. And another one pointed a gun at his head with a chambered round from 18 inches away.
To me, it's murder. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
And all the excuses in the world does not change the fact that 3 people got shot.
Yeah.
2 people were murdered.
Yeah.
To me, it's murder. I'm sorry.
And
I'll never forget that man.
Yeah, that was.
He lost his
Yeah,
son.
lost his son.
Another
Oh,
family
sure,
lost
she'll
their son. And
forget
what
him
we're also
next
seeing in
week.
this case is a lot of the victim character assassination that we do often see in the black community.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at that because Rittenhouse didn't know the background of those.
They
of
weren't
those guys.
black.
He didn't know that one, may have molested a
Yeah.
child, or another one had mental issues. He knew none of that. All he knew was that someone else was on the other side of his AR-15, and we need to keep that in mind.
But clarify who the one was who molested the child. That was
Rosenbaum.
that was not a guy who was there protesting for Black Lives Matter.
We do not believe so.
He had gotten out of a mental institution.
Yeah.
And there's another notion. People are saying this is not about race. It's not about race. But we do have to remember that he responded to a protest about racial injustice. And so that is a part of this. And instead of, protesting, he was there to protect property as if property is more important than life.
Wouldn't it be a really interesting twist of all?
No. First of all, that guy apparently was there for that reason. it also doesn't matter why he was there. What matters is that he told someone he was going to kill them, and he tried to take that person's gun after chasing them, and after his friend fired a bullet like within 20 feet of him. These people are deluded, and they are a big reason of why it's going to be very difficult for Kyle Rittenhouse to live a fairly normal life. So yeah, completely absurd. These people have lost their minds, and I've kind of lost hope for them to regain their minds, because people that used to be reasonably sensible, like Whoopi Goldberg, have now become clinically insane. And the type of people that roll through that program, just constantly talking crap, spouting complete lies, and this is why it seems very difficult for somebody like Kyle to live a normal life, because, you know, a lot of people either don't have the time, which I understand, or some of them just don't have the inclination, which I do not understand, to do their own homework and find out the truth. And so there's going to be a huge portion of the country and the world that just have their own views on Rittenhouse. And it's sad because, you know, he went through a long and very corrupt court process that tried everything they could to get a guilty verdict on anything, you know, any of the charges, please. But none of them, like none of the they just couldn't do it, because he really didn't do anything wrong. You know, like he said, he didn't want to do it. It's not something that he wanted to have done. But, you know, in certain situations, if somebody's pointing a gun at your head from a foot away as they're rushing you with a chambered bullet, you know, it takes somebody to be either very cowardly, very stupid, or very slow to not fire a bullet at that person, you know. And the same goes for the other two. I mean, I'm sorry for that guy. He's lost his son, and everybody wants to think of their son as a great person, despite having a long rap sheet of criminal history, you know, including violent history. But at the end of the day, if someone goes to a court, they're found not guilty by a group of their peers, they should be allowed to live a normal life. Anyway, yeah. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested to know what you guys think on this one. How do we ensure that people can sort of live a normal life? I mean, he's sort of passed the test in what you would think is the hardest test in the court of law, but now it seems that because some people want to make money off his name and winding people up and dividing people, that he's going to find it really difficult to live a normal life. But yeah, anyway. All right, thanks guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon.
Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish